Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogram with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. Today is Friday, September 23rd. If you're joining us for the first time, thank you for being here. This is a live show we do Mondays and Fridays. If you're returning, hello, good to see you here. A couple of announcements. If you would like to support the show, we have a Patreon and a Subscribe Star and a Locals, and there's links to that in the chat. We do have a book club this month. We're doing Political Ponerology. This is a book that came highly recommended by several people, including Dangerous Rhetoric, who gave me this copy, Nina Infinity, and the foreword in the new version is written by Michael Rechtenwald. And I know if you're watching this, you're tired of me talking. I can't stop raving about this book. I hope you'll go get a copy. Whether or not you can come to book club, you might want to get a physical copy so you can take notes. It's about the science of evil. It's about totalitarianism, authoritarianism, and also psychopaths. It sort of brings everything together. It's like true crime and all the stuff I'm interested in on the individual level, combined with just crazy psychopathic ideologies and horrible things that have happened throughout history and how to prevent them going forward. So I really recommend this book. Okay. One other quick announcement. If you're in the Austin area, we have a Women Leaving the Left event with myself, Michelle Evans, Megan Murphy, Antonia Cover, and Isabella Malbin. It was scheduled for a week from today, September 30th in Round Rock. I just wanted to make an announcement. I believe we are moving that, and we're going to have a new date soon. So if you bought tickets, you should be getting an email soon. I believe we're moving the date because we're going to be sponsored by Gun Owners for America, and they want to actually have time to prepare and do an event where you can either just come to the panel or you can come to the panel and the shooting range with us and like make a weekend out of it. So it sounds like it's going to be something a bit different and bigger. So there'll be more news on that soon. But thank you. I hope to see some of you guys in Texas. Okay, that was a long intro. Please welcome my guest today. If you're a longtime viewer of Deprogram, you'll recognize these ladies, the sisters Michelle and Natalie from Force of Light Entertainment. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Good. Oh, so glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to be back.
I'm so happy to have you back. You're both just like beams of sunshine, and you look really lovely. And you have everybody. Last time they love your voice, and Natalie in particular. One of the many knitters who watches the show, they said you're like a spitting image for her. Or yeah. So they're like that, or you sound like her. They're like, is that her?
I like that.
Yeah. So tell me what's up. I figured I'd just ask you on air, like, what have you guys been working on since I saw you? Or what have you been up to?
We've really got into, I think we just kind of started last time we were on with you. We really got into doing like reactions, like recording ourselves watching things.
Nice.
And that seems to be very popular.
What are you watching? I haven't seen them.
We've done like
Back to the Future.
Yeah, we've done that's what people really like is when we do a first time watching reaction. And we did
stuff that we somehow didn't see, but it's like super well known and popular, but we just missed it growing up, you know?
Yes.
You never saw Back to the Future until recently?
In fact, I grieve because I had just we should have recorded ourselves watching the original, like the first Back to the Future, but I just watched it before we started doing that. So we recorded ourselves watching the second one, and eventually we're going to do the third one.
Okay.
And we just did all the three Karate Kid movies.
And you had never seen those?
No.
And I love them.
I absolutely love them. No lie. Today I was in the gym.
We were missing out, Michelle.
I was leaving the gym today, and I thought of something Mr. Miyagi says to Daniel in the third movie, and like I was starting to have tears just walking up the stairs of my gym, and I had to put my sunglasses on. I was like, this is embarrassing.
Mr. Miyagi will do that.
Because it's so well. Last night, I don't know if you guys have gotten into Cobra Kai yet, since you just watched. Okay, so my husband and I love Cobra Kai, and hey, it's good to talk about good entertainment because there's so much that's woke and terrible. Yeah. And Cobra Kai is excellent, and I think it has that nostalgia for the 80s. It's just quality entertainment. It's not worried about sending like giving you an ideological message or anything. And we watched the last episode of this current season last night, and I got teary. There's like emotion. One of my favorite characters, I didn't know what was going to happen, and I'm like, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but I was like, no. It just that's good, but that's good entertainment, right?
It
Touch
is.
you?
It is, absolutely.
I love it. And it's a show that, I've said this on our channel, but it's like, I didn't even think I would necessarily be drawn to it. But after watching Karate Kid and then getting into Cobra Kai, it's like, no, I love it. And you don't ever feel like guilty or like, oh, that was too dark or too much.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's a light happiness to it, which I love.
Yes. I was talking about on Wednesday night, we did a Lord of the Rings stream on we do on Deprogram a pop culture show on Wednesday nights. And we had a couple of like really hardcore Lord of the Rings Tolkien fans on to talk about the new Amazon series and stuff. But one of the things we were talking about is that good storytelling, good entertainment, it's based around eternal truths, like universal truths.
Yes.
Something that everybody can relate to, regardless of race or sex, or these eternal archetypes and storylines of self-sacrifice and loyalty and camaraderie and hard work and those things touch people and they give you those emotions. But now it's like they're trying to do, like, woke is different. It's not like eternal truths that's not the message they're putting into things. It's these sort of divisive, what would you call them? It's almost like
False doctrine.
What'd you say?
False doctrine.
Yeah, well, false doctrine's great. Yeah, it's not an eternal truth, is it? It's like women are better than men, and now Batgirl's going to be amazing because it's a woman. I mean, they're kind of teaching these things that are not that not everybody can relate to.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
where it's like today I really was getting teary. I thought about in the third Karate Kid movie where Daniel thinks he's ruined the little plant from Japan that Mr. Miyagi brought over. And he's like, Daniel, if the root is strong, the tree is strong, like the tree will make it. And he's like, you have strong roots, Daniel. It's just like, it's so touching.
And you talking about those eternal truths, it's funny you say that because especially in the first and the third movie of the Karate Kids, there were these moments, it's like, this sounds crazy to people, but it was like God was speaking to me through that entertainment.
Yeah.
Like he was speaking messages and encouragement and hope and don't give up. And like Daniel was being prepared in the first one. He didn't even know it. He didn't, I don't know. That just really spoke to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it goes back to what you're saying about them basing it on those eternal truths, because those are eternal truths.
Yes.
And back in the day, Hollywood had enough people, whether it was even a George Lucas, who isn't really like a Christian, or I don't think he associates with any religion, but
God gave him that creativity.
Yeah, but he understood how important spirituality is to humans, and he created his own, but in a way that it would speak to people of different religions.
Something that touches the human spirit.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff because I'm trying to figure out how to better articulate it, but it makes me think of Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot when he talks about Pinocchio and the old Disney cartoon Pinocchio, and that's a movie that speaks eternal truths, like a lot of the old Disney films did, about resilience, pursuing the truth, telling the truth at all costs. He talks about in that film in particular, like saving tradition, saving the father, turning away from nihilism and hedonism, and I think that's, if you go back and think about like what's a movie that really touched you emotionally when you're younger, as an adult, whatever, and all the movies that, like the first ones that spring to mind, they all have some part of that message. Like they all have, like Braveheart, self-sacrifice, loyalty, camaraderie. There it is again.
No, I've never watched Braveheart. That's going to be a reaction one at some point soon.
Oh, that's going to be excellent. Oh man, I got to tell little Ragamuffin. She'll have to come be in the chat when you guys do that. I call her the William Wallace of the sewing community. She's like the freedom advocate. That's going to be a great one. Well, hey, let me read a couple of these chats. I see you guys. Here we go. JS Pena. I'm always going to say it wrong.
It's Pena. JS Pena.
JS Pena. What up, ladies? A force of light.
Hello, JS.
JS Pena. I should ask Tiger how to say that. Tiger speaks Spanish. My husband and Tiger do. Okay, Demanji.
Demanji. You said it about the way we say it. Demunji. We like to call him Demunji. Welcome to Demunji, but his name's Demanji. In fact, I was thinking, Keri, Demanji would be a great guest for one of your shows.
Yeah, that's
really
absolutely.
Oh, he speaks the truth all the time on his channel.
He does.
Oh goodness. Okay, cool. Get in touch with me. I'll reach out to you. Pirate Tomsky's here, so he can remind me.
Yeah, Demanji is going to be on our live stream this Monday, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah, great guy.
Demanji for $2 says, "Hey Keri, held to my beautiful friends, Force of Light Entertainment. Thank you, sir. We will get in touch." And then I think there was one more, just so I don't miss it. Oh wait, yes. Your average Patriot nerd for $5. Hell, Keri, and hell to the lovely ladies of FOLE. Love all three of you ladies. This is a great pre-show to FNT. Oh, that's a compliment. Thank you.
This is the pre-show.
It's the
pre-game. You pre-game with us.
You pre-game here with coffee and maybe a little God talk and nerdy entertainment stuff.
And you prepare yourself for Ryan's mouth later.
Yes. I will say one last thing to wrap up that topic about Karate Kid and everything. I know Pirate Tomsky and other people in the chat were like, no spoilers on Cobra Kai. I won't give you any spoilers. I'm just going to ask you overall over the whole series, are there any characters that you really hate? Like, who's your favorite character and who's your least favorite?
I think it's hard to Johnny not to be your favorite, because really it's his show ultimately. Like he's the ultimate main character of the show, and he's the underdog that you root for. Least favorite. And okay, the least favorite of this past season, and I can already see they're going to give him a redemptive arc because of everything. But man, Kenny was the worst in this last season.
Oh, I know.
Kenny sucked.
He's terrible. I love Johnny. Of course, everyone loves Johnny. How could you not?
Yeah.
In the new season, they introduce a new character who I love, a character from Daniel's past, and. I could watch a whole spin-off show with that guy. Like, I think he's great.
Yeah,
I'm trying not to say
too, yeah.
And then recurring characters. I just can't stand Daniel's daughter, Sam. I can't stand her.
She is kind of the wink link, isn't she?
That's what my daughter said. Like,
no,
she gets on my 15-year-old daughter's nerves for some reason.
She gets on my nerves. You know why? Because she's that. And I think I was saying to my husband, I'm like, I think they purposefully Did they purposefully write her as unlikable? Because she never accepts anybody's apologies. She doesn't offer forgiveness quickly. She always is like it's somebody else's fault. It's never hers.
Yes.
And in this new season, she continues all of that even more, like her rivalry with Tori. I really like Tori. And she doesn't cut her any. It's always, she never looks at herself. I'm like, why don't you look in the mirror? My husband's like, you're taking this too personally. I'm like, no, it's you. I'm yelling at the screen.
That's the thing. Tori actually read into be a much more likable character than Sam.
Well, because she grows and evolves, and Sam really, if you think about it, hasn't that much.
She's kind of Miss Perfect from the beginning.
And she's kind of like she says to Tori, like everybody has a sob story, which it is true to a certain extent, but it's just like, yeah, but have a little compassion. Like, it is like not everybody, it's like was as fortunate as you, Sam.
Well,
like,
and I mean, Sam like grew up and nothing against it, but she grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth, and she doesn't seem to have like an ounce of compassion for people who didn't have that lifestyle.
Right.
She's sort of like you're right. I think it's that they did a great job of giving Tori this character arc of making her starting off unlikable, becoming likable, developing her. And Sam has just become, I've just liked her even less each subsequent season. I'm like, am I supposed to dislike her? All of Daniel's kids. I don't like his son either.
Oh, it's in fact, I'm not going to say it, but what they keep calling his son cracked me up the whole season.
Oh, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, me too. Whisper it.
What do they call him?
You're going to make me say it. Lapusso.
Oh, I miss it because there's so many insults and nicknames. There's a real anyway. This season, very good. Not spoil. No spoilers there, Tomsky. Just saying you're gonna thoroughly enjoy it. That's all. Somebody says, "What show is this about?" Oh, we were talking about Cobra Kai because these lovely ladies just watched Karate Kid, the first three, the films 1, 2, and 3 for the first time.
Well, and what's funny, and we got our father into it, which we thought he would like it because our dad's a black belt. So he's like really been into it. And then he was telling me the guy he learned karate from came from Okinawa. Yeah, however you say that, where Mr. Miyagi was from. So that was cool.
It kind of blew my mind for some reason. I'm like, the same little place.
Yeah. I love just the other thing about the show that's so funny is that, and this is maybe why it maintains that kind of positive attitude, because you can't take it too seriously, because you've got these evil guys, right? Like these characters, these bad guys, and these. But at the end of the day, what they're arguing and talking about is karate. And I'm kind of like, wouldn't it be great if the psychopaths just stayed in karate and didn't go into politics and all these world like at the end of the day, it's this sort of manageable well, if the worst these psychopaths do is spread their evil karate message across the world, at least they're not, Trudeau. At least they didn't run for if it's like Prime Minister of Canada. Like I would rather see the psychopaths arguing over who's going to be the top karate, like the dojo in the valley in California.
Because that really is what it's like. Like Terry Silver is like, he's like the emperor of the karate.
Yes. I mean,
and you're the rebels trying to take him down.
Yes. But you have to laugh at the end of the day because you're like, all this effort and all this, and he's so evil and so serious about it. And you're like, but it's karate.
Well, they say that he admits in the fourth season that he was on coke back in the day. Maybe it did damage to his brain. I don't know. Right.
That was like something I'm like, why do these middle-aged men care so much about this thing?
It's life or death, okay?
It's really a mystery series.
Yeah. Okay, so there's something in the news I wanted to bring up. I wanted to show you guys, and then we can go through. If you guys, I know you brought some topics today too. Speaking of entertainment, this is just something I saw. Let me see if I can put this on screen. And there's been a lot of talk about the new James Bond, and I think they're kind of dragging it out so that we talk about it more. Have you noticed that? Like
I have.
Like, we're not gonna name the character yet, and we're gonna do, So here, this is a headline from the Telegraph. If you guys can see this on screen.
Yes.
And it says the next James Bond films will have bigger roles for women and a more sensitive 007, according to the producers. Yes. According to the producers, who said, quote, Bond is evolving just as men are evolving. And I went and looked up this headline, and they had a different language for the headline. It said, I'm trying to remember how they phrased it. It said he's going to be more, they used another word for sensitive. Hold on, let me see. I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you're big, maybe you haven't seen James Bond.
Oh, no, I grew up loving Bond. Fan. Yeah, I loved Bond growing up.
So yeah, what do you...
My thoughts are, going back to that comment that they're going to give larger roles to women. I wanted to bring up, it's like, and I know he's not considered like the best Bond, but when I was a little girl, the Bond was Pierce Brosnan. So that's the Bond I grew up with, was Pierce Brosnan. And I'm trying to find the movie. I think it's, let's see, Die Another Day. Die Another Day was the movie. And like say, even when I was a little girl, so that was late 90s. No. Die Another Day is not it. I think it's, where are his Bond movies? I'm trying to find it. Well, Terry Thatcher's.
Oh, yeah.
He sleeps with her. But then there's actually another Bond woman that's an Asian woman. And the point I'm trying to get at is that was the late 90s. And
she was very active.
She was very much like, he was still the top guy because it's a Bond movie, but she was very much a peer working with him. And my point,
Like she wasn't just sitting around looking pretty.
Yes, the point I'm trying to make is women have already had quite large roles since I've been alive in the Bond movies, because like in that movie and in all the Pierce Brosnan movies,
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Scott Miller's got it. Tomorrow Never Dies. That's the one I'm referring to, that has the Asian lady that's an excellent alongside him. But I think that's just so ridiculous because, again, at least since the Pierce Brosnan movies, they've been giving women significantly large roles in his movies.
Yeah, it's sort of like their whole woke lie about women in entertainment on a large scale, which is that women have never had major roles before and have never been the leading characters before and have never been the leading characters in action or sci-fi before, which all of that is, it's all a lie.
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like they're doing that with Bond too, in the way that they like, we're going to have bigger roles for women. Well, you've already had big roles for women.
Yes.
Off the top of my head, what was a 90s classic? Speed with Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
The main person was a female.
Yeah.
That was an action movie.
Alien.
Thriller.
Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah. In horror, look at like Jamie Lee Curtis. Like there've always been leading ladies in these different genres: horror, action, thriller. It's just they're trying to sell us. They're trying to rewrite history as if they're recreating the wheel. Here's the headline I was looking for. That Telegraph article had an alternate headline that said the next James Bond will be more in touch with his feelings.
Wow.
So there you go.
Well, it's like even with the Daniel Craig Bond, like they make him, and I didn't mind this storyline. Like in the first movie, he truly like falls in love and his heart's broken by the end of it, which kind of made sense to them. Why that's kind of how I think it happens a lot, where they become womanizers at that point. Mm-hmm. But he does ultimately fall in love and get married, even in the Daniel Craig ones. So, I mean, my point is how do you go even beyond that? If you do, it's not Bond. It's like Bond is a ladies' man. Like that he is what he is.
Yes.
Like you either accept it or you don't.
Love him or hate him.
He's usually a respectful ladies' man. Like, I don't know if they really exist quite the way Bond is, but I mean,
he knows
what it is.
He knows that no means no. He's a respectable gentleman.
He's respectable. This is what I think they're doing. Twee Girl said it right. They're emasculating James Bond, basically. Yeah, I had a friend who tried to say, who offered a different opinion, and she had a fair point. She was like, well, I think the Daniel Craig version was very sociopathic and cold, and maybe they just mean they're going to return to like the previous Bond that's a little more in touch with his feelings. I'm like, okay, maybe, but I don't read that from this headline. Just knowing what they've done, anytime they make press releases like this, they put out a press release saying, we're going to have more roles for women, and he's going to be sensitive and in touch with his feelings. I think they're telling us they're going to emasculate him completely.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And really, because again, I love Bond is one of the greatest male characters that I think was ever created. Like I think he's up there with like Sherlock Holmes, like truly just like a phenomenal character. Honestly, I love Bond. But with that being said, in recent years, I feel that, and I think it's just because he's so much in charge of his own movies, but I think Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt has become like our day's James Bond. I mean, he's not like he's not like always getting with women the way Bond is. He's a different character.
Well, it's probably healthier.
It probably is. But yeah, he's not going to catch anything that way. But my point being is because Tom Cruise is not going to let anyone, male or female, take the glory from him. I think his movies have actually become kind of more the standard for that genre.
Spy genre. Yeah. I did see somebody say, meanwhile, Mission Impossible is not going to change their recipe, and they're going to rake in all the views and the money.
Well, do you know what? Do you know what? Tom Cruise in his own way did change the recipe a little. Ever since he added, I think he started getting women a little more of a role even in the third movie. But when he brought on, what's her name? Something Ferguson. Rebecca Ferguson, who's a beautiful woman. But he brought on Rebecca Ferguson. And since he put her in the movies, which they have a very fun dynamic, which again, he's the lead character, but she's very much a peer to him in a way, and you really enjoy their back and forth. But since he brought her in, the female audience for the Mission Impossible movies have increased the last two movies.
Wow.
But my point
That's
is,
cool.
he's done it in a way that Hollywood should look at and observe, because men really like Rebecca Ferguson's character, and women like her character.
When it's a good character,
Yeah.
people are probably going to like it.
Because
And you don't
again,
have to hit people over the head with like, we've got more women.
yes. Yeah, it's just kind of naturally, because in spy world, women are in the spy world. I mean, they are. They use women a lot, especially because they can kind of not be noticed, kind of viewed as a threat and kind of get in places.
Very, very sneaky.
They are sneaky, but yeah, I think Tom Cruise, his Mission Impossible movies are, I say this on our channel a lot, they are the best example I've seen of how to introduce female characters in a way that everyone accepts and embraces, and they're really good.
Doesn't feel forced.
Yes, it feels very natural.
So I have a confession to make. I don't know this character you're talking about, so now I need to watch the Mission Impossible.
Well,
Because-
how many of them have you seen? Because I think in particular, the last 3 have been like excellent.
Really? I probably
Yes.
haven't seen any of those. I saw the one with, let me see.
Everyone hates the second one. I liked it as a kid, but I was really young when I saw that. I probably wouldn't like it now.
How many have there been?
Let's see, there's been 6? No, 5.
27.
There's been 5, and 6 and 7 are coming, I believe.
Yeah, I probably haven't seen one since like 1996, the first one.
Okay. Yes, if you get past 2 and 3,
Okay.
actually, I think there's been 6 already. I think 7 and 8 are coming out, but and that will be it. But the last several have been like phenomenal spy movies.
Really?
Like, yes,
Okay.
They still have the ridiculousness of Mission Impossible, that he does some elements that are kind of sci-fi, futuristic, but they really are. They're fun too. That's the thing, and that was kind of the thing with some of the new Bond movies that lost some of the fun. Because Bond's kind of a fun, cheeky character.
He is fun and cheeky. He's supposed to be cheeky. I'm just imagining now. Actually, I should plug this on Wednesday night, guys. If you're a fan of Deprogrammed, if you're a fan of pop culture, our live Wednesday night show, Wednesday night's going to be our big woke-tacular, and you guys are welcome to come. We're going to be doing Mystery Chris and I are writing woke synopses of favorite films and franchises. So I'm going to save all my jokes about Bond until Wednesday night, because I've got an excellent woke Bond script in the works. But you can almost like plug it in like oh gosh, what is that where you just the riddles where you plug in the words now? Mad Libs. You could almost do Mad Libs with woke summaries. That's what it's like. We'll change race swap the character or gender swap the character, add more female roles, take out any heterosexual romantic subplot, and make it about female empowerment. Like, done. Woo!
I want to point that out, actually, because that kind of bothers me in today's movies. I'm sure you've noticed this, Keri, and I think it comes from the modern feminist ideas. It's like back in the day, our male heroes, they could fall in love, and they could still be our male hero and save the day. Why can our female heroes not fall in love?
Interesting.
Why is that viewed as a negative? Like, have you noticed that? No new female character can have a love interest. God forbid.
Well, they don't want to show, they're Mary Sue's, and they don't want to show the female, the leads being vulnerable in any way.
Yes.
And nobody wants to see a woman seduce a man. I don't. Anyway, like, I mean, in that scene of are they going to kiss or not kiss, like, you want to see the guy like take his hand behind her head. You don't want to see her be like, do that to him, like come here. And
like, I haven't seen it, but like the She-Hulk character that like carries the guy to bed.
No, nobody wants to see that. You want to see the man romance the woman. There's like a certain, I don't know, there's nothing that to see like I don't the female lead like emasculate the man in some ways. Like I don't know if I'm explaining this well. So they don't do it. They don't do it. And I noticed this in the new Star Wars films with what's her name?
Rey.
Yes, with Rey. So they kind of
No
give
love
her this
interest.
no love interest, sort of a love interest with the young Darth.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, Kylo Ren. But then she returns. This just really struck me. I think I mentioned this to you before. It really struck me at the end of one of the films. She returns back to like hang out with all the good guys. And it's just her and like her platonic male friends and her robot, who's kind of like her dog. And it's just like a girl and her dog at the end, which is fine. I have my dog, and like you can tell a story about a girl and her companion and the dog or robot, but there's something missing there with, I think, with that B storyline. When we used to go to the movies, like the kind of movies you're watching, like Karate Kid and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that whether it could be an action film or a superhero film, the B storyline usually involved some type of human storyline, which a lot of times was a romantic subplot. And now they've just like axed that.
Well, two recent examples.
That's just human in and of itself.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of kind of hardwired into most of us. Like we want to find a partner, in life, someone we can share our lives with. So I think it's like, that's a great material to put in a movie, because so many of us can relate to that and enjoy watching it, and people fall in love.
Yes. So 2 examples I can think of where they actually did it well. The only female I can think of in recent years that they let be the hero and have a love interest, and they let the man take the lead in the love area, which is what, like you said, no one wants to watch the She-Hulk scenario. And that is, and I know we recommended it to you, so if you haven't watched it yet, I still recommend it. The first 2017 Wonder Woman. Like,
oh, I still haven't seen it, but somebody else just told me that.
It really is great. Like
yeah.
And I mean, men liked her. I mean, she really is not at all a Mary Sue. Even as a goddess, they make her earn and learn things throughout the movie.
I mean, kind of talk about a scene or an image that can like just make me tear up.
Yeah, no man's land scene. When you watch it, you'll know it, and you'll love it.
You'll know it in here, and
you'll feel it. You'll feel it. But that was the only modern female character I can think of where they let her fall in love, and the man kind of takes the lead on that. Because they really did give her an equal male counterpart,
and she's like experiencing this new thing.
Yes,
she hadn't been around men before, so it's kind of precious too.
Yeah. So that was the only example I can think of for women. And then recently, because it was a throwback to the 80s, and it's funny, I heard this critic who's she's kind of a leftist, but she had mentioned about the new Maverick movie. They just kind of forced in this love story. But I really thought without the love story, it wouldn't have hit the same way. Like, I really enjoyed it.
I appreciated it. It didn't intrude
too
much. And it was a nice, it actually reminded me of the 80s and 90s movies where it was like, okay, there you go. There's the Beast storyline. They've got it in there.
Yes.
And it doesn't intrude too much. It's not an A storyline, but it's there. And that's the kind of like date movie you used to go where, everybody's enjoying something from it. It's not like they're sacrificing the story to try and please everyone, but you've got all of those elements. You've got action, and then you've got this human element of relationships, and I loved it.
And you know what? There's a scene, speaking with the love story, which is why I think it adds, that I think really makes his character relatable, because it's like he's this really tough, super brave dude, obviously.
Yeah.
But the scene when he knows he's about to go on this mission that he doesn't know if he's going to come back from, really. And they're on the beach, and he doesn't say anything. She just like turns and like hugs him, like truly embraces him. And it's a very humanizing, touching scene, because it's like she's comforting him, like this very strong, incredibly brave man.
Because the truth is, even the strongest men, like, they're stronger
if they have that element with them.
I think they're stronger with a good woman with them. It's like to be there, to be that shoulder to lean on at times. Like, I think that's part of our purpose.
Yeah,
because then you've got something to fight for and to come home for, and all of those added. It's like, not to spoil anything, it's like the new season of Cobra Kai. If you finished it, you'll know what I mean. Okay, I've got, where did it go? One others. Here we go. T. Louie. Thank you, T. Louie, too, for $5. Says, Keri, no more Mario Kart for you until you're willing to call someone one or more gamer words. What are gamer words? Like insult them?
I'm sure cuss words.
I did say at one point, I can't remember. I remember I did curse. I said, like, F all you guys, but I said the word. It is. Anyway, that was really fun. And I blame Epic Mike. I'm addicted now to Mario Kart, getting better at it. So, P.S. Sam is the worst Cobra Kai character. Yes, we can agree on that, T. Louie.
She really is.
This is not a super chat, but I just thought it was funny. Adam says James Bland.
That's what they're gonna create.
Yes. It's going to be James Bond giving his pronouns, doing a land acknowledgement, like all before working
He's
up
like,
the dialogue.
Name's Bond, James Bond, he, him.
Yes.
And you can be strong and you can be tender. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know why it has to be one or the other, like most people are kind of multifaceted. It's not just one thing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny, Keri, is it's actually society and like our news, Hollywood, that created the stigma of what they deem toxic masculinity, which is really just a jerk man. That's what they're
And there's plenty of them. There's plenty of them.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But
there are, but they actually created that by all the content and everything they pushed of not. Think about our society did push the concept of a man marrying a woman and being a protective provider, like those truly masculine traits. They like society for years wanted to push masculinity of you sleep with every woman you can, you make no commitment, that type of thing.
Makes you the man.
And that makes you the man. And then now they created that, and then now they condemn
like
that.
An overcorrection.
Yeah,
Yes.
but they're not really trying to correct it in a right way.
Right.
They don't want men to go like to truly possess healthy masculine traits, like true masculinity.
A man of dignity.
Yeah, of like integrity, like again, protective, provider, like those type things. So it's just interesting. Like they create the problem so they can then slam it.
Yes, but you guys are hitting on something really important there, I think, where it's like two extremes. And they created both of them and they just play off of them. Like they push this one extreme of toxic masculinity, what they are now calling toxic. And then they go over to this complete other extreme of demonizing men and pushing this really unrealistic idea of womanhood, I think.
Yes.
And they don't know how to do the healthy middle at all.
No. Well, I don't think they want to, is the bottom line.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's interesting. Okay. So I've got an ad I'm going to run. If you want to pull up, Michelle, you sent me a very interesting text and I was wondering if you could read from that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
While you get that pulled up, I'm going to play this ad. It's just a quick minute. Thank you guys for being here with us today. Where is it? Let's do the right one. Here we go. The mission statement for the Church on the Square in Georgetown, Texas, is to revive the church, reach the city, and renew the culture. I happened to attend the very first church service just because I saw an ad on Facebook, which is interesting because I know other people who found the church that way, and Facebook has since stripped our church of the ability to advertise. So I'm here to tell the deprogrammed audience, anyone who's interested, where they can find them. That first service, by the way, that was when I knew I had found my home, because the sermons are something that feeds your mind and your soul. Our pastor is Bradley J. Helgerson. I often describe him as a mix between Jordan Peterson and C.S. Lewis. If you're interested in listening to some of the sermons, you can find them all online on the Church on the Square YouTube page. You can also find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. If you happen to live in the Georgetown, Texas area, you're also welcome to visit with us any Sunday. We meet at 10 a.m. outside right on the Georgetown Square on the courthouse lawn. If it's hot or if it's raining, then we meet in Ken's Guitars, which is also right there on the square. I hope to see some of you there, and thank you very much.
Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see.
I think I've got it here.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, let me pull that up. Okay, yeah, I'll read it was the highlighted part that spoke to me. Now, if it is true that God is both truth and love, it will readily be seen that the greatest sins will be unreality, hypocrisy, deceit, lying, and whatever else will choose to call sins against truth, and self-love, which makes fellowship with other people and their proper treatment impossible. Forgiveness must then consent in a it consists, sorry, I'm reading from kind of far away, in a restoration to reality, i.e. truth and love.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just hadn't really thought of it that way, and it just so spoke to me about pretty much what we see all the time on Twitter, like libs of TikTok and the stuff that they show.
Another thing that just popped in my head, have you ever noticed like the last few years it's become very popular, like speak your truth?
Oh yeah.
Well, this is my truth. And it's sometimes not true.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's gotten very big into your own truth, not like what God has to say about things, but your truth.
Well, and it's even back, to what Keri was saying too, just even eternal truths. I mean, even biological truths. I mean, everything, it's like they're coming against truth, like in every way and trying to make us all accept it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, no, like that's not reality.
I'm bringing it up here just one more time to show people it's my pastor called it, when he spoke recently at it's been several months now, he spoke at the Georgetown City Council, because they had in our town, they had the middle school, Forbes Middle School, they had 10 to 13-year-olds, middle schoolers, paint a mural on the town square with the pansexual flag, the bisexual flag, lesbian flag, transgender flag, and non-binary flag. And it's like, why do 10-year-olds know what a pansexual flag is? Why is the middle school, the government middle school, teaching them what this means? Why are they painting it on public property? All of these questions came up. And in his comments to the city council, he tried to expand it and make it like, he tried to explain on a large scale why this is wrong. And he said something about how this is a war on reality. Mm-hmm. This is a war on truth. And that's what this quote said to me when you sent it to me that I was reading. It must consist in a restoration to reality, truth, and love. We're really far away from that right now, don't you think?
Very,
very.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like every day. It's like we saw
any bit of truth they're trying to tear down and replace it with some kind of idol that's so far from the truth.
Well, even in what we were just talking about, like a female never being able to find a love interest. Like, I mean, it's just like in any way they can tear down truth or reality, they tear down truth or reality.
Because the devil loves deception. He loves to deceive, and he can get to people's minds easier that way and manipulate and control them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just there's a lot going on. I mean, even this week we had that guy in Canada, that teacher.
I can't stop thinking about that, because that's a sign of how far along down the rabbit hole we are, that they're protecting that teacher with those laughable, ridiculous, and overly sexualized, huge, enormous breasts with protruding hard nipples that he purposefully puts on there. That's sexual. That's erotic. He's getting off on doing that in front of kids, and they're protecting him. And they're what's funny about it is that we're in such an upside down world now, where they can say with a straight face, the school, that they're going to defend him and protect him teaching there because of they use the word dignity, because we respect his dignity with those big.
It's just, and what gets me too, and I tweeted this, is what's so funny is
I think they want to protect the lie.
Well, and you see this actually with, like, I guess, would you consider the writer of Harry Potter like a second wave feminist?
Yeah, probably, because they consider her a TERF. They call J.K. Rowling a TERF, which means trans exclusive radical feminist. It's a slur they try to use against feminists, and some of them are more like second wave.
Because I think she truly is like an old school feminist who wants to promote women, where she's smart enough to see this is going against women. And what I was going to say on that guy is, I actually tweeted out, if a woman teacher presented herself this way, she would be fired like immediately.
Interesting. Yeah. Right.
But a man can present himself that way and it's acceptable.
Yes.
Like, it's actually sexist.
It's totally sexist. A woman could never do that. A woman can't even, they have a dress code in that school. I looked it up. They have a dress code that says, for the students anyway, and why shouldn't the teachers have to follow the dress code they've set for the students, that students cannot wear clothing that makes the nipples or genitals visible or obvious.
Well,
I had a feeling it was going to be about the nips, and yes, the nips.
Well, it almost looks like the dude has two. What are they called? Like not when people can get like a big lump. What is it called? What word am I looking
for? It's like two ends of a pacifier.
A goiter.
Well,
a goiter.
No, it's like something you can get removed,
like a cyst,
not just a cyst. Like sometimes they build with cancer, I think. Gosh, I can't think. I think my mind's blanked out. But my point is, they're so low, they don't even look like breast.
No.
Like, at first, when I just saw like one angle, I thought, is he trying to be pregnant? Because that's where it sits. It's like they're so heavy. Tumor. Yes, tumors can develop. It almost looked like two big tumors, like sticking out of his lower stomach, because they hang so low. They're more at his lower stomach.
Yeah, they're not natural. By the way, you guys started the grossest trend in chat. Everyone's naming gross things now. Boil, tumor, mole, cyst, nail facts. Ew. Goiter?
We got it. We don't have to name anymore. But yeah, it's just so bizarre. Like you said, that they're defending this guy who, I mean, and again, back to kind of J.K. Rowling's position. Why is it acceptable for kids to be exposed to, like, why are men allowed to be on the streets acting like strippers, where strippers have to be behind closed doors? Like, and I'm not trying to promote strippers being out public. The point being, why there's the irony of it.
The double standard that they've been talking about forever.
There's a double standard for men here.
Yeah. Double G standard. Double G. I think that's the
word. Those breasts might be double Z's. I mean,
I heard from a couple people up in Canada who said that the local media there is so woke and so left that they're not touching the story at all. The local media is not covering it. It's all national and international outlets that are covering it. And it's interesting now that it's gone international, to see how it'll be interesting to see how long the local news can justify not treating it like the story that it is, just ignoring
People have got to step up, stop being afraid. It just takes one or two people standing up against something, but if everybody just has the same thought and thinks, oh, I just won't touch it, I won't say anything, that's how they move forward.
Well, it is. And I mean, Canada really is like under a lot of authoritarianism.
Yeah.
It's an upside down world. Have you guys read this book that I was plugging at the beginning?
I haven't, but it sounded very interesting.
You guys should get this. Let me get you a copy. I want to gift a copy.
I'd love to read it.
Because Dangerous Rhett gifted this copy to me. You guys sent me a book. I want to send you a book. I think you would love it, and it's about this, like I said, the science of evil. And he basically says, he's like, when we look at things that have happened, like Nazi Germany, or if we look at Soviet Russia, that looking at them purely through a historic lens or a political lens is not enough. We need to look at them through a psychological lens and a spiritual lens as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's pretty amazing. He goes places that I didn't think he would go, in terms of acknowledging I think like spiritual truths and eternal truths, and without being overtly, it's not like an overtly Christian book,
Yeah.
but Christians will find a lot in it that's like, yes, I can't, he's speaking truth here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love it. Alex Lindrum says, thank you, sir, for the super chat. Says, RE, the big breasted teacher, it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye.
I mean, those things are going to snatch up children,
Yes. Worse than that. I mean, this is a shop teacher. And the video I saw, the teacher has those huge fake breasts near the saws. It's a safety hazard. Also is not wearing any eye protection, no goggles, no face mask while operating the saws. And it has like that long fake Thor wig, like the hair hanging in near the saw. It's like, come on, you're not even following. I guess if you say this is my identity, you don't have to follow any rules at all.
Do you know something I find interesting, Keri? Have you ever noticed, like, amongst the trans community, that trans men, they never seem to want to emulate like a classy woman. They always want to present themselves basically what we women would deem kind of slutty.
I will say that's not always true, but a large part I have made that observation as well. That now that you mention it,
actually, some of the trans women I know do present as more like average women.
Okay,
but the ones who present as average women, like they don't seek the spotlight. They're not the ones
like there you go
in the media, or they just want to be left alone and pass.
Well, because sometimes like with you're just like, guys, like you're just kind of like that's not really how women dress. Like
I think that's how you can tell maybe when it's more of like the fetish people. Like when I looked at this guy up in Canada, I'm like, this isn't even trans. Like the people I know who are trans don't want to be associated with that dude. It's like, no, this is fetish. There's a lot of people now who are saying, oh, I have gender dysphoria. Oh, I'm trans. And it's really just, no, they get off on dressing as the opposite sex. And they get off on, in that guy's case, forcing you to look at his enormous prosthetics, which there's a whole kind of porn dedicated to that. It's like, it's very gross. I'm not going to get into that, but it's very gross. And he's basically bringing all of that fetish and that porn obsession out into public in front of children. Yeah. And you know what? Every time we share those images, and I have been sharing them a lot because I think we need to make a mockery of this person. I think this is one of those lines in the sand where it's like the more normal people who see this, who don't know where they stand, who haven't chosen a side in the culture wars, the more of them who see that, it's so absurd. It shines such a light on where we are culturally, and people even think it's a joke at first. More people need to see it. So I have been sharing it more and more. However, every time I do, I know he probably gets off. Every time you share that image, he has a little bit of a thrill because he wants to be seen. He's an exhibitionist.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think once again, I'm not generalizing. I'm saying maybe the ones you
okay. That's it is expedition. Yeah.
And maybe seeking attention, attention seeking behavior.
Yeah. That's very true.
Attention seeking dress,
Yes.
Wikipedia has the word for autogynephiliacs roll out. They don't like you to say autogynephilia anymore. They try and pretend like that doesn't exist. But you guys know what that word is, right?
I know. I've never even seen that word.
So if you go do a rabbit hole, go down the rabbit hole after this stream, autogynephilia is when you're attracted to yourself dressing as and presenting as the opposite sex. It's a sexual fetish. It's not so much feeling that you're born in the wrong body and struggling with that your whole life. It's what you get off on. It's what you get off on. It's a completely sexual thing. And they, much like they've tried to discredit the whole trans, the TRA, the trans rights activist part of social justice, has tried to discredit all of the doctors who used to work with children with gender dysphoria, who would try and find what the root causes were and see if they could help them desist from that feeling that they were in the wrong body. They've tried to discredit all those doctors. They basically just now, the whole idea now is that you have to completely validate immediately. You can't look for any other symptoms, any other causes, any other root trauma. You just need to immediately say, well, you must be born in the wrong body and go there. They also have tried to get rid of this word. they've also tried to be like, nobody's an autogonophiliac. We're all trans. No, some of you are autogonophiliacs. Like, I think that dude in Canada
is one.
Well, and I think that's really important with so many things to try and find, like you said, spiritually, psychologically, the root cause of something, because you look at most addicts and, like, for example, what do they have in common? Most of them have trauma, in their childhoods and their backgrounds, something that it makes sense they would want to dull that out to not feel those things. And so I'm not saying there's with the other things, but usually there is something that, that needs to be healed. And, and it leads to something else if not dealt with.
Yeah. One of my friends told me that he's so he transitioned before this became a big cultural flashpoint and before it was being pushed as the norm like it is now, before it was being pushed on kids as like introducing all kids to the idea that they should need to choose their gender or figure out if they're born in the right body or not. And he was saying, I don't know if they'll ever find out like what's wrong with me now. Like what's wrong with people having gender dysphoria, like get to the root cause of it, because now it's being pushed as just like a normal thing. Like some people are born in the wrong body and here's what you do. You get surgery and you get all this stuff. And it's like, well, are you not going to figure out why people have these feelings?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the opposite of helpful in any way.
Yeah. I don't think they consider that, the people who are pushing it so hard, that like, I don't know, you're doing a disservice to people who want to get to the root cause of this feeling of dissociating from their body. But anyway,
think about, wouldn't it be sad if we embraced addiction in that way? Like people that are struck, like, oh, that's just who you are. You were born that way. No, they weren't.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah. Oh man, you guys, do you ever go down the rabbit holes on YouTube that you're not familiar with? Okay. There's I'm not going to put it on the screen because, well, one, I didn't think I was going to talk about this today. I don't have it pulled up, and also I just have a lot of empathy for her and don't want to put it up. But there's this really popular YouTuber with millions of subscribers who's clearly anorexic. All of her Instagram photos and her videos, it's like, I don't know how she's still alive. It's just a bone.
I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? And like a skeleton, it's like a human skeleton and all the and in a bathing suit and posing and all this stuff. And in the comment sections of almost every one of her videos and her Instagram accounts, it's almost like I think people are in the audience just to watch like a car crash.
Yes.
And but there are lots of people, almost every comment is about her noticeable eating disorder. And everyone's saying you need to get help and you need to do this, whatever. And I feel like it's the opposite with, like, what if we treated anorexia in the same way that we're treating some of these other, like obesity and things like that, where you just ignore it and say, go you're so powerful.
That's who you are. Embrace it.
Yes, exactly.
No, don't.
Yeah.
Don't get help.
Yeah. And again, Keri, like Hollywood plays into that in both negative ways, because what they've presented like an unrealistic expectation of what the female body's supposed to be for decades now.
Like they had their hand in that pot too.
Yes.
All along.
And then now their hands on the other side of things of you can be mortally obese and you're healthy.
Michelle, you're so on point. It's always the extremes. Hollywood sets the unrealistic expectation of like super thin, telling actresses they need to lose more weight to get the part, really enforcing this idea of this is the only acceptable idea of beauty. Then they go all the way to the other extreme. And again, where's the normal middle?
They don't like the normal middle.
They don't.
That's weird. So I don't know how much. Oh, we've got a little bit more time. Do you guys, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about bringing you on, maybe you can tell our audience, since I forgot to do this at the beginning,
a
little bit more about yourselves. And it's in your bio. If you guys want to follow links to their channel, it's below the video along with your bio. But why don't you tell them a little bit more about yourself? Because I want to talk to you a little bit about the media and how they seem to be going after Christianity lately.
Oh, yes. Well, I am, we have our YouTube channel, but I am ordained minister and very, very close to getting my PhD in theology. So yeah, that definitely, that definitely is of interest to me because again, Keri, you were the one, you tweeted out maybe a month ago or so, I don't know. You tweeted out about how basically just be on the watch. Christian nationalist is about to be like the next demonized term that becomes everywhere. And since then, it's like I have been seeing it like all over the place, like Christian nationalists. It's Christian nationalists. It's Christian nationalists. And it really is, because I think is that what you're going to talk about? Yeah, because it really is based, and really what they mean by Christian nationalists is white conservatives, like Christian conservatives, like that's who they mean, because God forbid you be patriotic in today's age. Yeah. Even though like our founding fathers understood that a little bit of nationalism is a good thing. Like I'm not talking Hitler nationalism. I'm talking about just having pride in your country and like supporting your country is kind of what they meant. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's been demonized today. And of course they want to go after Christianity because you and I both know this leftist movement is built in like Marxist type of ideology.
And why would they attack it so hard if it weren't a threat to them?
Yeah.
You know, maybe people should start to pay attention, connect the dots, and ask themselves, why are Christians quite so scary to the left?
Yeah.
Why could that be?
Yeah, because
it's real, because God is real, because it's truth,
yeah,
because it's what they hate.
Because they as we brought up, like they like to present false truths, like false reality, and you can't have people proclaiming, as you used at the beginning, eternal truths. Like that just can't be a thing. So yeah, I think we're just going to continue to see that. And really they've done it with Republicans. They do it with men.
Anything attached to the ideas or truths of God, you notice they hate.
Yeah. Yes. But they're always demonizing a new group. And this is just the new group. Like and if you notice too, they specifically like the white Christian nationalists.
They've really, I think you're right about several things there. They started off by demonizing the word nationalism.
Yes.
And so people don't even really know what that word means or think about what it means. They've trained people just to spit that word out as if it's something wholly bad. I think they did that because for the longest time, think back to when you first heard that word. I first heard that word related to white nationalism. It was never nationalism by itself. It was always white nationalism, which I oppose. I don't want a state that's united around race or racial identity. But when you divorce that word nationalism from white, it means something else. If you're talking about nationalism, it means something else. But the stigma of having used it so often with the white nationalism is there. And so people hear nationalism divorced from that, and they still think like, oh, awful, like white supremacists. And it's like, well, no, what about black nationalists? What about just nationalists? What about, like, it depends on what words you're using that with, and it means something different.
Well,
I really
exactly.
think the average person hears that and thinks white supremacy.
I think I used the word nationalist on a live stream a few weeks ago. Actually, I said, like, people should be nationalists for their country. I don't know if that's exactly what I said. And you were like, people don't like that.
I was like, people don't like that word.
I was like, oh, I didn't know.
Well, and again, like obviously nationalism, and it's like worse in, you see like Hitler, obviously, that type thing. But really they are, someone Dion has in there, they're kind of conflating too, like that type of nationalism, with just like being patriotic. Because it's like, if you've noticed, the left is not patriotic. Like
they hate this country.
They really do. Like, I mean, this country, like, all it has is its sins, and we have to repent of all these awful sins we've committed. And like, there's nothing good they ever say about our country. It's just kind of bad. I mean, you guys know this from the 2020 election. Oh, here, my camera's frozen. Let me, let me switch the battery out.
Yeah, we're still here.
But you know this from the election. It's like people who you could basically just put out an American flag and that meant you were voting for Trump. I mean, that's sad.
Yeah, it really has become a joke. Like, if you have an American flag, you must be a conservative. And like, when did that become the case?
I see that on Twitter all the time, where just that sort of knee-jerk reaction that they have towards the American flag and towards anything patriotic. I also, when I was in the social justice cult, it was very overt, that kind of hatred for anything national that brought us together nationally. Like, they hate people celebrating the 4th of July. They hate it. They hate people celebrating Thanksgiving.
They hate unity, you know? They want to divide and conquer.
Yeah. Well, and they have to divide because you can't conquer if you don't divide. So, I mean, that's what they do. So, and two, you know, you saw that sad story.
Well, and can I just, if you think about it, patriotism, that was something that brought us together as a country. So, of course, naturally, they want to tear that down.
Well, and two, back to the Christian nationalist. I know they hate this fact, but the fact is that early America, when America started, it really was a Christian nation.
I thought about that a minute
like
ago.
It really was.
Think about what it was founded on.
Like, it was people coming here to be able to practice their religion freely.
Rebels, if you will.
And it wasn't until after the Civil War that we kept getting more and more immigrants. And not that that's a bad thing. Just, I'm saying, up until the Civil War, it truly was like almost exclusively a Christian nation. Like, that is our founding place. And I think they truly hate that. And obviously in America, we believe in freedom of religion, any religion, but that doesn't take away our founding roots and what they are.
No, it doesn't. And I'm glad you brought this up, because I've thought about this before. We were a Christian nation. So is Canada, by the way. I saw recently there is a Department of Education, or whatever the Canadians call it up there, but it's their equivalent of the Department of Education. There's an argument brewing now in Canada that they want to get rid of some language there, where in their founding, like the documents about the purpose of their Department of Education, it says to promote Judeo-Christian values, and they want to remove that, and they say it's discriminatory and all this stuff. I don't think it is. Judeo-Christian values allow for a plurality of beliefs.
Yes.
Christianity has never, it's not about, I know people have misused it. I know I'm going to see people in the comments who are like, look at all the awful things people have done in the name of Christianity. Yes, people do awful things.
Yes.
People in the names of every belief system, every ideology, every movement. There are going to be people who corrupt it and use it who use it in perverted ways. That's going to happen. But Christianity as a belief system is not about force.
No.
Jesus isn't about forcing you to believe, anyone to believe, or using the state to force you to believe. That means nothing. Yes. Why would Jesus be like, I mean, there's nothing in the Bible that's like force people.
Yeah.
It's all about free will.
Exactly. Yes.
So being a Christian nation doesn't mean you can't choose to reject God and go off and you can choose to be an atheist. You can choose to be of a different faith.
Exactly. Well, but it does hold those truths that I guess they don't like thou shalt not murder, which again is both Judeo-Christian. It's both of them. Those type things that, I mean, they bring like a healthy order into civilization and society. Well, and even back to that, people forget, believe it or not, it's like Harvard was founded as a seminary. Like, it was there to teach ministers. Like, people forget how many of our institutions, like Harvard, I think even Yale, Duke, were seminaries. Like, that's what they were. And, look at what they've become.
How the mighty have fallen.
Completely the opposite now.
But I think that is some of the reason they attack it too, because again, everything in this country's got to be uprooted apparently, and at the end of the day, like, and again, up until the Civil War, America truly was almost exclusively a Christian nation at that point.
Yeah. I think for people who are not believers, there's something interesting. Well, you guys are Christians, so I can't ask you, but I'll ask people in the chat. I'm curious because do you guys see how, or is it just maybe people who are believers who see it this way? But do you see how woke and all of these evil totalitarian ideologies throughout history make a natural enemy of Christianity?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if people who are like not believers see that, because that's the point. Kind of like that quote that you sent me and read from, that it made that it's like, when I look at it through the Christian lens, it becomes more clear to me what's happening, which is an inversion of everything that's good. So it's like that Bible verse about woe to thee who substitutes, who makes evil good and good evil, and who puts light for dark and dark for light. It's all an upside down inversion, everything that's happening.
It doesn't say we call evil good and good evil, and we very much, I think, see that.
Definitely. And you see that throughout like history. I mean, think about even Nero. Like he despised the Christians, and the Christians at the very beginning of the start of the church, I mean, they were nothing in numbers, like in Rome and places. And I mean, he wanted them snuffed out and killed bad. And it's like, but why? Like,
eliminate the threat that deep down and people know is real, even if they don't really know it, they do know it. It's hard to explain.
And again, like you said, it's a threat against what they present, because look at Rome at that time. It was a very, well, I would say a godless society, but they had tons of gods. They had tons of gods they worshipped. But like people don't realize, it's like Rome back before, and that's interesting, is it? Right before it fell, it kept going further and further into just total perversion. Like,
Yes.
I mean, every type of sin you can think of was fully on display and just totally accepted. And these lifestyles that we promote now, that, yeah, I mean, there's some similarities.
They had that witch hunt teacher in Rome.
Yeah.
the big breasted lady.
She was in Rome.
I'm looking for this quote. I wonder if I can find it. There's a quote in this book that I keep talking about where he basically says that he's talking about a similar topic, and he's like, it's necessary for them to destroy like people of faith and to destroy people who believe in objective truth. Like, because psychopaths they depend on being able to, there is no truth. It's whatever they say goes. There's just the power that they seek. And so it's necessary to destroy those who have like, no, this is where my roots are planted, in this solid ground. I know this to be right, this to be wrong, that must be destroyed. This is interesting. There's people in the chat who are weighing in. AH says, yes, I see it. The government wants your total submission and loyalty, and God is a competitor.
Yes.
And then Jules says, I'm not a Christian, but I 100% see it. Be proud, those with faith.
Well, and that was even a thing, say, back with Rome, because the Caesar had kind of got into a place of deity towards the end, of where you were supposed to basically worship Caesar at that point.
Right.
Yeah. So this new Jesus that was being talked about was a threat. And they hated the Jews too back then. Because they worshiped their one God. So they hated both of them equally. But like you said, it was a threat. It was a threat against their total control, as he said.
And because he stood for everything that kind of like a psychopathic wannabe God like figure is for, that kind of person who puts themselves on a throne, and it's like, worship, and it's all about like the ego and the narcissism and worship me and all this. And Jesus is like walking around talking about like humility, like washing people's feet.
Yes.
And the least of these, and that's what he was about.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a threat to have someone who's in the face of that showing like, no, this
Well,
is
I
the
think
way.
I think
But
that's what
truth
I
is
think.
truth is powerful.
I think that's what's so absurd about it. It's like you said, even if this nation were to continue to always truly be a Christian nation, that would still be accepting to other religions and not necessarily casting them out. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I would.
especially today. I mean, we all believe in freedom of religion. No one's trying to stop that here that I see,
right,
except the extreme left. Like
Except the
that's what they're
extreme
trying to
left.
stop. They're the only
Yes.
ones trying to stop it.
Yes.
It's
and
like,
do you notice that most of the other religions, whether it's Buddhist, Hinduism, any of those things, they're okay in TV shows and programs. That's okay. That's
Yeah.
celebrated even at times. But don't ever make a Christian look good.
No.
Ever.
No.
Those don't exist.
They really
Never
well.
show
And
Christian family.
speaking of Muslim, it's interesting. I tweeted out again. Is it J.K. Rowling? I've never read those
Yeah.
books. She actually is one of the only ones tweeting it. Have you noticed the deafening silence from modern feminists and from our political people that are so pro-woman as these women in Iran, you know, was beaten to death for taking off what are they called, the hijab?
Hijab.
Yes, she took it off and was beaten to
I didn't
death
even know
for it.
this.
And like talk about actually brave and stunning women, as we like to say over dumb things over here. Like they're out there protesting, burning those, and like some have been killed for it. And it's just like the ones over here that are so pro woman,
pretending that we're living in the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Here, like we're
and it's like they're just like there's a deafening silence on addressing what's going on over there right now.
She's not wrong.
Wow.
That's absolutely true, and that happens because they I mean, it shows you the truth of what the ideology is really about.
Yes.
They never live up to their words. They never live up to their words. So they're not about standing up for women. If those women are Muslim, or if those women are in, you know, Iran, they're not going to say anything because in the hierarchy of woke, they've put Islam in this place where it's like, well, we can't be critical. We won't be critical of Islam, like because they're a threat.
It's not a threat.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Which, by the way, at some point it will be. It will be. They'll view it as a threat, I think.
Yeah, at some point it will, because at some point I mean, back to Marxism, like Marxist, I mean, they just want nothing. Like they don't want any form of religion other than worshiping them, basically.
Unless it can be co-opted and used like a front of Christianity, but used to promote woke. And it's harder to do that with Islam right now, at least in the way that Islam exists in the majority of the world. It's harder to use it as a front for woke. I mean, I know here in the Western world they try to do that, but I think they have a hard time doing that. That leads me to this question. Somebody gives a super chat as a question for you. Tyler Turducken, what a great name. $5. Thank you, sir. Says, how do you explain woke churches? Why do they exist? And what are their adherents thinking?
They have been deceived, in short.
And Keri, I think you can understand this as someone who came out of it. A lot of them are actually good. I mean, some of them aren't, because you get some
weeds in the beautiful garden.
You do that just aren't very genuine. But there's a lot of, I know some who would be considered woke Christians who are very genuine and actually good people. They just because
they've been deceived
because Christianity is about mercy, and there is actually a right social justice in the Bible, like taking care of your neighbor, like if you see someone that's in need, giving to them. But that's like, when I say social justice,
somebody if they're in trouble, you know, if they're being attacked. I mean,
but the social justice of the Bible and of the social justice of what is out in our pop culture are two very different things. And but my point is they've mixed them, because there is actual social justice in Scripture, doing good to neighbor, taking care of others, and that type thing. So I think it was easy for them to hear these things and not register the negative with it. And they just kind of embraced it. That would be my explaining of it.
Yeah.
And
Natalie,
some maybe aren't genuine, but there are a lot of genuine ones too.
Yeah. I think there's both. I think you're right. I think there are the genuine believers who've adopted some of these social justice beliefs with their Christianity and are doing what I was doing with it, even though I was a non-believer at the time, but you kind of are living with this cognitive dissonance and you're not examining things too closely. And
Yes.
And if they were to, I think that's when you see, and I have seen a lot of people wake up from it. One of my friends, well, two of my friends who are former social justice warriors were social justice warriors for like 20 years in the church. Monique Duson from the Center for Biblical Unity and Gracie West, she goes by Embarrassing Mom on YouTube. They were both like in the SJW world, but in the Christian church while they were pushing it. And then when they started examining it, everything fell apart like it did for me. It's like you couldn't live with it after a certain point.
Well, I think that's exactly it, like not examining things because they hear things that, because you know how it is, the SJWs will hit on things that make the ear sound good, like Black Lives Matter. Well, of course Black Lives Matter, you know, those type things.
The best lies have like a bit of truth in them.
Oh, yeah. They have to, or they're not accepted.
Yeah. Yeah, the devil uses like it for the Christians here. Okay, all the atheists in my audience are very tolerant. They listen to me use phrases like the devil. I know they're laughing, but they know what I mean. Evil.
Yeah, because even if you're an atheiist, and you have to believe in evil. I mean, because we see it every day.
Even if you're an atheist, God loves you too.
And they're like, "Come on, shut up, Natalie." But evil uses that little bit of truth. And to bring it back to like the individuals again, think about everybody who's listening. If you've ever dealt with somebody that you would call a narcissist, like with NPD or a psychopath or sociopath or someone who's in those cluster B families, like in terms of having some sort of character disorder, they will use a little grain of truth and then build a whole lie around it and use that grain of truth to sell it. It's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's what it is. And then you've got some of these people, like what's his name, the Senator Warnock from Georgia. I mean, only God can judge where he stands between him and God. But, I just kind of feel like there's an X amount of people that are just kind of fake, to be honest. Like, do I think that guy's like a devout, holy minister? No, I don't. I'm just going to be honest. I don't.
Oh, this guy, I'm looking him up. Well, that's the thing is with every belief system or movement, I think that it's a hard time sometimes discerning who's in it with good intent and sincerely in this backwards belief system, if it's a backwards one, and who's in it to use it. And there's like con artists in everything. There's con artists in woke. There's a ton of con artists in woke, but there's also a lot of people who are good people who are sincere and have bought into these lies and are being deceived. And there's con artists in Christianity.
Oh, like, absolutely.
All the time.
Man, I remember I watched like years ago, it was a great documentary. It was called like Making O.J. Simpson or Made in America, O.J. Simpson. And it was like 6 or 8 hours it covered his whole life. It was interesting. But they showed it was some black minister in I think Los Angeles. And he literally compared O.J. Simpson getting off two murders to Moses and God parting the sea. Wow. That was a literal quote out of the minister's mouth. Like it was just like, are you kidding me? Like he's either massively deceived because of race and unresolved things he's not dealt with, he's not dealt with, or he's just not a genuine minister. It's A or B. Like it. Yeah. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
And if you're walking around unhealed of all this stuff on the inside, obviously you're going to be an easier target.
And see, that can happen with women in church. Like maybe if they came from a more, like a really strict on women situation, and they hear the modern kind of leftist talk, and that sounds appealing to them. So it can kind of pull them the other way.
Yes.
It can be a lot of different things.
Jumping from one extreme to another.
Yes.
Again, I've seen that where it's sort of like, yeah, if you come from, because there are abuses in the church. And I know people
Absolutely.
I knew someone who's dealt with a church environment that just kind of glossed over and didn't address sexual abuse in the church. And then I think that the one of the sad things, trajectories that can happen, not always, but can happen from that, is then you've like, it's that verse about like being a stumbling block, because then you've got people who react totally to the other extreme of like, well, that's what Christianity is about, and now I'm going to reject everything, that every word that Jesus spoke, because I was the victim of this corruption and this evil.
Yeah.
And I
in the
hate
name of
that.
God.
I hate that. And I think if we're all honest with ourselves, I'll use the phrase the enemy. The enemy has probably used something in every individual life that maybe that even grew up Christian to say, oh man, I don't like that. I want to get away from that. That was so gross and repulsive to me. But really, that was never of God. That was that person. That was that teaching. That was that false doctrine. That, it's like, and the enemy will grab hold of that. But then, like, the Lord is gracious, and you start to see the truth and his love, and God is love.
And that's why really, as far as, I mean, if you're an atheist and you have no desire, you're right. It's why everyone should just like, and I say to people today, start with the New Testament, start with Matthew, and just read through the entire New Testament. And I think you'll see how when Christians act ugly, they're not actually following Scripture.
And Scripture calls them out.
Yes, absolutely.
It calls you out when you're behaving in an ugly way. And then you're like, and then you read a verse that's like, oh shit, that's me.
Exactly.
It's a mirror for us sometimes.
It definitely is. But yeah, I think that's how kind of the woke thing. And I can say this too. This isn't necessarily for the church, or I mean, I do have a warning for the church in that, but I'm kind of, and I think you'll get this, Keri, with your background and everything. It's like we had really arrived at like this great place for women in the United States of America, where we have equal rights, like women can choose, like, and this is what I believe. If the 1950s wasn't right. Like if a woman feels called, like you find some women who especially say,
but if it was right for that woman, then it was right.
Hold on, let me get to it. Like what I was going to say is, like there's some women, you specifically see this with women, say even in the medical field, like there's really almost like a calling to that field, and they want to do that and help.
That makes sense.
If women want to work after they've had kids, if they want to have kids, so be it. Work that out. If you can afford to stay home and want to stay home, stay home. Like, all
the options are there.
Like, and what I was going to get at is I'm kind of getting concerned because that's just human nature. When things are extreme, we go to the other extreme.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of almost getting concerned. It's like they've thrown so much garbage in men and women's faces now for so many years. It's like, let's not swing back to the extreme we left. Let's stay like where we were like in the 90s and 2000s.
Right. Like we tend to do that again. That maybe the theme of this whole conversation has been, don't do an overcorrection. Like don't trade one extreme for the other extreme. Like find the happy medium. Pyrotovsky, finding the happy medium. That's where the problem started, letting women choose. This is my moderator, guys. He's joking. Fracky, long time. Thank you for the super chat, sir. 499. He says it takes a huge amount of cognitive dissonance to accept the gospel and anti-racism at the same time. It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It does, because what they call anti-racism is racist.
Yes.
And to be able to accept the gospel and racism and be okay with that and that's a lot of cognitive dissonance. And people throughout history have done it, though. I mean, there have been racists throughout history who've claimed to be Christian. So this has been an interesting talk. Thank you for letting me just kind of ramble and explore some of this with you guys.
Oh, I had fun.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, do you guys play any instruments?
I don't, and I so bad because
I
I
know,
played.
I wish I'd learned to play the piano.
I played basketball through college, so like I was just devoted to sports. And the big one, I don't live with a lot of regrets, but and not that it like keeps me up at night, but I do wish I would have learned either guitar or piano or some type of instrument.
The reason I ask is because you, as sisters, and as these like these bubbly, like charming, captivating personalities, I want to see you go out on the road. And if you played guitar, that would be one thing. You don't, so you just got to take your podcast on the road. Like, just go on the
like
road,
it.
microphones, have an audience, an evening with, and I would buy ticket. I would.
I like
That
it.
is so, I've actually thought before, like just in our little, chats and stuff when I see that, but I would love to have like, it'd be so nice to experience a live audience because
Yes,
I would love to be able, maybe sometimes I wouldn't want to, but you kind of feed off, like I would
Yeah.
love to feel, it's like, cause I can't see people's faces or like when we're talking to a chat or something, like I want to connect a little more,
Yeah.
I feel like you can connect better.
That would be
Okay.
fun.
Let's you guys should start doing that, and maybe I'll join you for one or something.
That'd be fun.
awesome.
I'm always joking with my husband I'm going to join him with tambourine in the background, but it's like when he does his music,
should.
like,
Go get the cowbell. Dun.
just like, who is that weirdo on stage with you? Get her off. But no, seriously, I think you guys should do something live. I think it would be great.
I
'cause
I
love
That would be
getting together.
fun.
Well, thank you for coming and hanging out today. Thank you guys in the chat for sticking with us. One thing I did want to say, I know Natalie has to go in 5 minutes. There's something we were talking about like people who've experienced abuse in the Christian world, for example, and then go into the other extreme and rejecting all of Christianity and rejecting Jesus and thinking all Christians are like that bad experience they had. That happened to me recently with atheists. I've had some very bad experiences with atheists recently, some atheists. And I could see that within me, that knee-jerk reaction where my psyche wanted to say, this is what atheists are like. But I could feel it happening. And I was like, but I know that's not true. I have good friends who are atheists who are not like that. And I guess I'm just putting that out, just confessing, just telling you that, because it can happen with any group of people or with any, I think, I don't know. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I had a bad experience with this. It can happen the other way too. And
I think what
you careful.
What you just said, like in so many different categories or groups of people, we're all guilty of that.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like we're all guilty of that. That it's like on most days, we'd be gracious and compassionate, but it just sometimes it's like, it just what you're describing, like that happens, but like you caught it, so that's half the battle.
yeah. Well, and I think that even goes back to just not judging people as this collective whole.
Right.
Yes.
And truly looking at people as individuals, like, because I truly think that's how we should look at all people.
And I think sometimes the psyche or whatever, to protect itself, wants to be able to make shortcuts and say,
Yes.
Christians are like this from now on.
Right.
I'm going to not be friends with any, or, atheists are like this, or whatever. Democrats are like this, Republicans are like this. And it's not, it's maybe a self-protection thing, but it's not true.
It's putting people in a box and saying, because that drives me crazy. Like, oh, you're conservative, so you must love guns, dogs, and or, just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, oh, I know everything. No, you don't. They're, or whoever it is, just like people are complex beings.
Yeah. And that's why it's like, I don't know if you've ever noticed, I will never in a tweet like refer to like Democrats or, that, because I don't want to call out a whole group of people. Like I have friends that are Democrats that don't think that way. Even if I disagree with the way they vote at times, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's why we couldn't specify leftists or.
I try to get more specific.
Yeah.
Leftist. I was trying to think, well, I do that sometimes, but
like
I hear you.
Well, like I will call out, say, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling out all the Democrat politicians, if that's what you want to do, but that they don't, there's so many people who vote Democrat who are not that way. And I don't want to lump them in. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say. I don't like being lumped in personally, so I try not to
Yes.
lump others
Yeah,
in.
People lump me in
exactly.
all the time, Natalie. Maybe it's because of that list you just rattled off, because I do love guns, trucks, God, and my dog. And so they're
I
like
do love dogs too. I
conservative.
put something in the chat. I wanted to correct that.
I just want to get a sticker that's like, I love guns, trucks, God, and my dog. And I'm a proud liberal voting for a Republican.
Yes, I am all the things you think I am.
God, you know what's funny, Keri, is it's like I don't even really know what to call myself
Me either.
politically. Because if I say conservative, people pin you into this really,
Because it's what I'm saying.
yeah, like this really, like I'm anti all these things, where it's like I actually mean like a constitutional conservative, which would
Yes.
allow for like is actually kind of liberal in a way. It
You
allows
should
a lot
put all of
freedom.
that on a sticker, Michelle. It'd be this long. I'm a conservative, but a constitutional conservative. It's actually kind of a liberal.
Or like, I'm conservative, but I'm also super passionate and highly sensitive. And it's just like we're all individuals.
Just too long of a bumper sticker. It's better to just put guns, trucks, gods. Anyway. Thank you guys. Thank you for the laughs at the end. Thanks for hanging out. Dawn, I don't know what this is you're talking about. Stacey Abrams QAnon. I'm going to look it up for next time. Couple of announcements for next week. I've got a live show on Monday with Lydia. Lydia from Temple is going to be here on Monday. And then I've also got Clifton Duncan and my pastor are coming back together. We're going to do a joint show, a live show together. And Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, we're doing a live. Also, I'll be putting out announcements for all those. So it's a big week. And you ladies, much love, much success with what you're doing. Tell people where to find you, and Pirate's going to put it in the chat.
Yes, you can find us on our YouTube channel at Force of Light Entertainment on YouTube. You also, I run it's basically my personal Twitter account, Force of Light Entertainment on Twitter.
AKA Michelle.
Yeah, it's my account. And then also you can find me at Michelle34Smith on Instagram.
Okay.
And I'm Natalie R. Grace on Twitter and NatLovesBella07 on Instagram.
And if you just go to the Force of Light Entertainment Twitter, her Instagram is linked at the top. I mean, her Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Great. Thank you guys. I'll go in and tag you on my tweets, Natalie. I just tagged the Force of Light account.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Hey, have a good weekend.
Yeah,
you too.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.